Hey, today we're going to rebuild a Delco Remy generator on my wife's 1960 original C1 Corvette. The generator seized up upon starting it when we were getting ready to leave our local car show. Fortunately, we live only a couple miles from the show, so after we loosened the pulley, we made it home without overheating. First off, I'm not a mechanic, nor do I claim to be. I tend to be pretty handy and like to do things myself. My initial feeling was that I needed to replace the generator. After some initial research, I found a couple of original rebuilt ones on eBay for around $419. However, this is a 1960 Corvette, maintained mechanically and cosmetically since the day it was purchased off the showroom floor by my wife's father. This is as original as they come. So after consulting with some mechanic friends, I decided to rebuild it.
Well, I didn't have a beautiful schematic like this when I started. I actually created this so I could show you at home what we're doing. So this generator has been on this Corvette. It was mounted here to the chassis. Had to remove these two bolts. I tried originally by the bushings, but they spun, so it just was easier to take it off at the mount. With that removed, my next step was to remove the pulley. Again, my goal is to limit damage on this thing, and it was a toughie. It was put on there pretty tight. Again, gradually worked its way off with some gentle love and care. Again, and our goal was not to destroy the magneto. We'll be resurfacing that. So my real problem was we believe is a bearing in here. We could hear a lot of noise. It had seized, quit spinning. We got it moving again, but it's making a lot of grinding noise. So to take the housing apart, there are these two long bolts that need to be removed. Once those were removed, they were pretty dirty in there. We've been using this liquid wrench to get our bolts off. I'm still having problems getting this piece out. We got to work on that, but everything else seems to be intact. This bearing seems to be fine, so we will continue to slowly disassemble. Again, this little pin that keeps the pulley from slipping, it's a little round circular notch that's tapped into place. This was one of the other areas, working diligently to remove it without damaging. So we put the nut back on and gradually was able to work that up with the screwdriver. So hopefully, there we go. You're going to actually see it come out. Bingo. Okay, so now with that, take the nut back off, and hopefully we'll be able to remove this. All right, again with a lot of love, we were able to remove this. So next we're going to be going in there and looking at what needs to be replaced and see if that's actually where my problem is. So all the grease on these have made this fairly simple to loosen these up. So I'm assuming all the oil and grease that has been put in here over the years kept these from really freezing up. All right, once again, we'll probably need, oh, there it goes. And that is exactly where my problem is. So I could hear this, and this is exactly what happened. The bearings shredded in here. So this is where the breakdown was.
So next it was time to clean and degrease everything. So for the delicate parts like the magneto and then the interior of the housing, I use this gunk carburetor and parts cleaner. And for all the other components, I use this WD-40 cleaner and degreaser.
So we have cleaned all of these parts and degreased them, and we're in the process of getting them ready for a little bit of color. We've cleaned all the grease off of here to the best of our ability. I'm not sandblasting it. Again, I'm just going to put a little bit of color on it. This is black. Just going to hit these with a little paint. This is after the refinishing. Little coat of paint on these. Cleaned up. This was totally clean silver. Cleaned it all down. Just evened out with a light mist of paint. Just to even out the color. This, again, very light coat. It was already black. Then, of course, cleaned up where everything was to assemble that. And, of course, this was all sanded down and, of course, repainted. And, of course, that bracket. So this is a little gearbox for the tachometer that goes on the rear of the generator. Again, we've cleaned it. We're going to just even out the color. We're not going to sandblast it, just to protect it and for appearance. So I may be wrong. The brushes in this, the contacts are in really good shape. It's dirty in here. I'm not sure. The car doesn't have a lot of miles on it, even new. This was purchased in 1960 by my father-in-law. Maybe it is in better shape than I thought. It's, again, that bearing probably didn't oil it well enough.
So as you can see, we began replacing the terminals. I did go ahead and replace the contacts. The springs were fine. I did realize after speaking with my father-in-law that this generator had been rebuilt once in its life, which would account for the approximate 25% wear on the current contacts I found inside. The car has about 54,000 original miles on it. So once it was prepared, we refinished the housing itself. Again, it was black. Sanded it lightly, put a light coat of black gloss paint on it, like what was originally on it, and prepared it for reassembly. So as we prepare to reassemble it, we're going to go ahead and put in the new bearing. It's a seal bearing, fairly easy. I actually reused the gasket that was on it and reassembled the bearing into its little compartment. This was the magneto that I had stored in this plastic bag to keep it protected after cleaning. Put it in there prior to cleaning as well. And you can see it cleaned up pretty well. I had my challenge on that part of the shaft, of course. You could see what it looked like before. Contact's great. Bearing back here works wonderfully as well. So as we're preparing to put the housing back together, you can see there's a little pin that lines up with the front plate of the housing. So we'll line that back up.
All right, you can see that the contacts are in touch, both on the top and on the bottom. So we're going to start putting this back together. So I'm looking here, and it looks like this pin right here aligns right there. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can get that together. All right, it's rebuilt. We'll see how well she works when we get her back in. All right, it's in. We're going to start it up here in a second, so let's see what happens.
All right, well, she started up very well. She's running nice and quiet. It was not this quiet, obviously, prior to the repair. We are holding at 0, which is what we want to do. Previously, it was drifting just a little under that. And as Once we rev, you'll see it drift just past into the positive zone. The project went well. The rebuild kit cost us $39, including shipping and tax. The cleaning supplies were about $17. Paint and miscellaneous supplies, $0. We used materials from other projects. And our total cost for this project was $56. Total time on the project was 2 days. My first day was carefully disassembling the generator. Took a little break and then came back and took a day to clean all the parts, recolor, and reassemble and install. Again, we hope you enjoyed watching us as we rebuilt this 1960 C1 Delco Remy generator. See you next time.